all that. I know how it goes. Like you're trying to do the 9 to 5, and then also all the side projects and shit that we do. So thank you for real, for real.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Alrighty, so Lucy from the good old Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you compete in different obstacle course events, right? Also working at a UFC gym. What so at the UFC gym, are you there as like a personal trainer, or do you do like more of like the back end stuff? What is it exactly?
So even better, I'm in gym membership, like sales. So it's super chill. I mean, I really just wanted something that I knew I could do super easy, really for like the free gym membership.
Mm-hmm.
And a gym environment is so fun because you just get to socialize all day,
Dope.
right? And like that's kind of part of it, like knowing the members and talking about fitness all the time. So it's just kind
Mm-hmm.
of like that environment I just love to be in. So yeah, it's super easy. I've done sales jobs before, and I
Okay.
was actually a member for 6 years at this gym before I started working there. So transitioning into now working there is a little bit different, but I mean, it was the gym that I always went to. So I already kind of knew a lot of people, so
Yeah,
it was really
familiar with the
good.
terrain, familiar with the faces, all that good stuff.
Yeah. And then you have that sense of ownership, because now, I mean, it's my gym, but then now it's like, okay, now I'm responsible for like the people that actually get signed up here, and then I can
Mm-hmm.
kind of share to them like, hey, this is why I love this place, and we're all kind of like-minded in that way where there's something there that we're there for, so it's
Mm-hmm.
really cool. It's a really fun environment, and that's just kind of what I needed. I was in the military for 6 years and I was a military police officer. So it was
Mm-hmm.
nice to go from that to something just super chill. So
Yeah, I
it's been great.
remember we were in Key West working on the military bases there, doing some electrical work. And that was the first time I really came across like military police. Because even where I live here now, it's it's like so strict, as far as like who comes on and off base and whatnot. But there, I mean, I don't know how they had it set up, but normal like civilians could be residents of the military housing there, and then we'd see the
Interesting. Okay.
military cops going around on the base, and it was like, oh snap, like that's got to be kind of stressful. Like they're dealing not only with like the military guys and their own issues that they deal with, but then they're also dealing with civilians. So that's got to be. So I definitely give it up to all the military, former and current. That's a wild job. I also wanted to ask too about your podcast, right? Lucy's Paradise
Yeah.
podcast. How did you get started? Like, what got you started on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually had the idea for a podcast for the past 2 years. And obviously being in the military, I really didn't have a ton of extra time to do something like that. So time was definitely something that would held me back initially. And so when I started really deciding, maybe it's time for me soon to get out, I said, well, if I am going to get out, that means I should have more time to be able to finally put, time and energy into doing a podcast. And I mean, I had written down so many specific details of this podcast that it's crazy how much of it has like came to fruition. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
I am a big believer in manifesting, but even to be as to speculate, even as much as possible, right? Even if I didn't want to, if I wanted to be negative about it or whatever, I
Mhm.
literally can look back at that journal that has my original things that I've written in there of like first people I want to be guests and stuff we want to talk about, and it's just insane like how much of that has actually happened. And then I had a friend here on island. His name is Grant Uchida, and we've been friends almost my entire life. And he's always been into videography, a little bit of music stuff, and photography. And he had or has had a YouTube channel for the past, I want to say like 14, 13, 14 years. So he was like a veteran in the YouTube space. And I did live in LA for a year and a half, and I had friends that were YouTubers, but I never really got into it. Kind of had the idea, but never really, sat down and thought, okay, what would I do if I had a YouTube? The podcasting thing was the only thing that really made sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, after the 2 years, I basically connected with Grant, and he's the one who shoots and edits my podcast, and I just show up and I focus on aligning the guest that comes on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's worked out perfectly. So that's been my idea for it. I kind of wanted to, Hawaii is such a unique space,
Yes.
and there's so many really interesting people that make up the culture and the community here, and so that's kind of, what I wanted to do. And I feel like Hawaii just kind of gets like lost, like no one ever really thinks about it. Like the last thing people know of is like we had the fires, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Which was horrible. I mean, that's horrible, but unless something big happens, like nobody seems to think about Hawaii. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that, I kind of wanted to come up more on the inspiration for wanting any podcast with like female hosts. There's a couple that have female hosts, but they have female and male, and it's like a dual
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I was like, wow, like there's actually like, space for me, which, there's always space for you, even if there are other, female or male podcast hosts, but there was just none, so I was like, oh, wow. And I think I'm very different, like
Mm-hmm.
both my parents are military brats.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't, both of them aren't in the military or never was, but they lived here their whole lives. So it's just a different perspective.
Yeah. And, you know, to me personally, Hawaii has such a unique, I mean, the culture there is so rich. And I feel like a part of its reason that it's so rich to me is like because a lot of people don't want to make that plane flight there. They don't think about it. It's on an island. It's like to me, Hawaii is the cool cousin that shows up at Christmas from time to time, but he's like the coolest cousin that shows up. Like, yo, bro, you're actually here. Like Hawaii, like fucking awesome. Um, and it does suck that when it definitely took tragedy to strike for people to be like, oh shit, Hawaii, like, or they only think about it for its beaches and vacationing, when there's such a rich culture. Because I have some friends who are Hawaiian and they're very involved in their culture, and so they would take me to things and I wouldn't know what the fuck was going on, but it was beautiful. Like, I thought it was always just awesome. Like, it was just always this awesome experience when I was with them. Yeah, no, when I seen your podcast though, I was like, oh, it was really cool to see like not only like the laid back feel that you bring to it, right? But then your editing and the video, and because I was very interested too to like how big is your team, and you're shouting out your partner there, because it's like so well put together, right? So clean.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, and I feel like you got like, do you feel what is it that they call it, like the gift of gab? Do you feel like you've always kind of had that, or was podcasting and like talking with people something that you built up maybe like through the military or something? Like, how'd you come about that?
Yeah. I've definitely have had the gift of gab for a while. I don't know exactly when I developed it. Looking back, I would say the farthest back I could think of, I worked for Apple. I think I started to work for Apple in like 2011, 2012 ish. And I worked for Apple for about 3.5 years. And when I worked for Apple, I worked in their retail store, and I averaged about 10K a day in sales, and I was their number one. Challenged me and really helped me grow. But um, I would say that's kind of, I think a little bit of it is definitely a natural ability, but yeah, having that experience was really, really cool. I mean, at the time, the CEO, the co-founder of Twitter, Biz Stone, he would come into the Apple store and ask for me, and if I wasn't there, he would leave. He would only, like,
Whoa.
that's how much I created that relationship with these business guys and stuff like that, where they had that much loyalty that they only wanted to deal with me basically after a
Mm-hmm.
while. So yeah, that's definitely where it started. When you do any type of law enforcement, being able to de-escalate situations is of utmost importance. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's great if you can shoot. My dog's about to chew on this squeaky ass toy. It's great if you can shoot. It's great, if you can pull out, each one of your levels of forces. That's amazing. But if you can't talk somebody out of calming down if they're upset or they're drunk or something, and just being like, hey, this is just, kind of automatically. Just your presence kind of, if you're doing things right, your presence already kind of impacts the situation. And then in a lot of cases, it can really trigger a lot of people. So yeah, those are skills I was continuing to use in the military, and the easier thing about having a podcast is we can just talk about all kinds of BS, so if anything, it's easier, right? So I'm not
Yeah.
talking somebody out of fighting me, and I'm not talking somebody into cuffs or anything like that. So I mean, it's really a cakewalk. But I definitely do a good amount of research if I'm researching, like if talking about some sort of topic or some court case or something, because I had an episode with Joe Exotic calling me from federal prison, so I had to
Okay.
read a lot of his casework because I wanted to educate myself on what are the best questions to ask this guy.
Mm-hmm.
What would I want to know, somebody on the outside that doesn't know anything about his case, right? So
What would you say?
uh,
Oh, sorry.
I, I I try to do as much.
Oh, I think. What are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here. I think it was like glitching.
Yeah, it got choppy there for a second. No, even even hearing you talk about like your experience with being in the police, and then even in the experience of like dealing with high level businessmen and these encounters, one thing that I've enjoyed about podcasting more, um especially recently, but more and more as I've done it, is that I feel that a good chunk of our like society just needs conversations that people aren't trying to like escape out of within 10 minutes. You talk to a cop and it's like, dog, I'm trying to say least amount of words so I'm just trying to go home. Like I want to go home. And even in business deals, I feel like the man who speaks the least always kind of comes out on top. you know um but in podcasting, you can have discussions with all kinds of people from anywhere, um, and kind of really get a sense of how they feel, where they're coming from, kind of get an idea of, you know, like they might have an opinion on something and they say it and it might sound a certain way, but you got to let them get like 5 or 6 more sentences in at least before it actually makes any sense what they might be saying.
Yeah.
um and that's one thing that's been, especially when, yeah, like I do research on certain guests and stuff, but then I also try to make sure to, like, even just for myself, like, don't do too much digging. Like, don't create your own conspiracy about people before you talk to them. Like, you got to let them be who they need to be. Like, who would you say then has been your favorite guest that you've had a chance to, whether you did a lot of research on them or you just said, you know what, I'm about to wing it and it was just good. Who would you think was your favorite so far?
Honestly, I'm gonna say my brother because I in my do is I develop kind of a timeline of questions, and so and it's a little bit of the same in the beginning. So it's kind of like how we know each other, a little bit about you, kind of where you are from, and then what brought you to Hawaii. Um, my brother's obviously born and raised here, so he doesn't, he's not going to talk about. But now he lives in LA, so that was, for him it would kind of been the opposite. But I liked that, and I would say that was one of my favorites because you can tell how close we were with how we interact with each other because we're like we grew up together and it was just different and you can see where he kind of like poked fun at me a little bit and like he was kind of roasting me a little bit and I was like damn, like I was taking it all like professional, and like serious, and then he's like just it's like he kind of like was the one that broke the ice more than me because I was like trying to get the content, trying to ask the questions. My brother, he went viral on MySpace back when he was like 15 years old. So
Wow.
he was very in the early stages of like internet fame, like before I even, before it was cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was weird because people knew me as like his sister. So it was definitely a weird ask him really, he's very smart, he knows a lot. And then being able to see our relationship kind of on camera was really cool.
That is so I come from a big family. Do you have a big family yourself or do you got just your one brother?
I'm the youngest of 6.
Well, yes. Yes, there was 8 of us total. I was the baby boy. Um
Oh wow.
and all of my I mean my brother is former military himself. But all my siblings all have their own little things that they've pursued and endeavored and like anybody. Um but no, just hearing that like damn, I need to get one of my siblings on the fucking microphone. That'd be so rad. Um and
Yeah, it's
and
different, because like they don't have that grow up. Like my guests that I have on, like a lot of them actually I've known for like a long time of my life, so that's cool. But my brother, I mean, that's a whole different
yeah.
thing. You know, like they're your sibling.
Yeah.
It's thinking. There you go.
There's sorry. There's one thing about like even for me like you know dancer, podcaster, dad, all these layers. But your siblings are always going to look at you as little bro, little sis, the one that did this and that, or oh, you used to get me in trouble with mom, and oh, you used to tattle to dad, and you'll always be that to them.
Yeah.
It kind of it pisses me off because I am the I mean baby of the family, you're the baby, whatever, and I just feel like that just will never die. It just won't. And it gets me sometimes because it's like, oh, look at all this cool stuff. I get to podcast with people and I go dance and I do this and I do that. And it's like, oh yeah, but I still remember that time. It's like, all right, dude. Um, what would you consider to be like one of the big goals that you have for your pod? Like what's something that you want to see come from it, or maybe even like a dream guest that
Yeah.
you would want?
A dream guest that I would want. I would say one of my friends actually. Her name's Koryanka. She's an actress. She did a movie with Colin Farrell and Christian Bale. She was actually on Island not that long ago. but she's staying away from like the cameras right now. So she was like, "Oh, not right now," but that would be cool because she's like a childhood friend and she's had really cool, unique experiences in Hollywood and as an actress. And I just really admire her. I think she really went from singing on the streets of Waikiki to being, an actress in a big movie. So it's just really cool, to not only know somebody personally like that, but I think she should come on and tell her story, especially because she's pretty much raised here.
Mm. Yeah, there's always going to be a certain connection when you have it
In
with the locals.
Hawaii, you know. So she's definitely.
Yeah, there's always going to be, I feel like even for myself, like there's people from I'm from a little town of Oxnard here in California, but there's been some people who've really been able to strike it out and do like big on like whether it was a Disney show or in dancing or there's been some guys here who've made it pretty far in boxing and the UFC. And like I've asked some of my friends like, oh, who would you want to do a podcast with? And they always hit you with the Joe Rogan or oh this or that. And it's like, dude, I would love to talk to somebody from my hometown who's really like sure they're famous, but they're like, they went to the same high school as me, or they grew up around the corner, like two blocks that way, or oh, they're cut, like somebody who, even if I'm not like a personal friend with them, there's still that personal connection of like, yo, we came from the same neighborhoods or like that same like local feel, you know what I mean? And so podcast with brother, right? Favorite. Then you also have your dream guest or hopefully future guest. Like what do you hope to see happen for you through your pod? Like what is a goal that you hope to accomplish personally for yourself? Like whether it's 15 years from now.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a far out goal. I guess being able to like my honestly to be able to have my podcast kind of pay for itself would be cool. That would be kind of cool. Um, but I guess it's fun. It's fun to make content, So I don't want to lose that spark of like good or deep conversation where I didn't really realize I would even learn something from this person, or I didn't think I would learn that from them, right? Like you have somebody on and you think, cool, they're a surfer and we're gonna talk about surfing or whatever, and then they say something about life that I'm like, holy shit, like. And it's funny because sometimes I'll watch my podcast back and I'll learn something else from the watching it back, playing it back. So, and I love watching podcasts. So like, I've watched a bunch of yours and all kinds of different ones. And I tell friends, keep referring me podcasts. I want to listen to all of them as much as I can. And I love learning. So I really just hope that people learn something from it and that they do gain some appreciation about Hawaii, and just kind of see how different everybody in the community here is. And it's really cool. Like Hawaii is just really dope, how many different people from all over the place like come here. I mean, in Ohio, and I moved out here on a whim, and now I'm never gonna leave. Realize it until you're here, until you experience it.
I was just, oh my God, I was just thinking in my head right now. Like, I remember, and I don't know who invented the thing, but still remember my one really, her name's Chanel. She was a really close friend of mine for years, and she brought spam that was wrapped in seaweed and rice. And I was like, I was like, what the fuck is this? She's like, oh, it's a spam musubi. And I was like, okay. And I remember trying it, and it was so delightful. I was like, this is amazing. Like, where has it been hiding my whole life? And yeah, and then I was introduced to spam, and then that's when I got to be friends with her. And I'm the Hawaiian. She was like the first person to really show me like even God, she would correct me all the time, but a ukulele. It was the first time I saw one in person was at her house, and sitting around and listening to them play and sing, and they would sing in the language, and it was like, oh, it was just always really cool to see and be
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
And I have a huge appreciation for the culture, like seriously. Uh, but no, definitely like even hearing you say it, because I think that is kind of the goal, and I'm trying to keep it the goal is always just I want to be able to just to talk with people. I never want to be so big that I can't just be myself, talk and be vulnerable. Like, if someone brings up a topic and I'm like, yo, I'm not very educated on that. Can you talk to me about that? I always want to be able to stay in that place instead of being like, well, like be snobby or like a know-it-all or something, like naive and ignorant, always still be able to learn from people and have those type of conversations of exchanging information, like a true liberal conversation of exchanging information. Um, is there has there ever been a moment where you were like ooh, like I don't know if podcasting's for me. I don't know if the talking to people is for me. Have you ever felt like that, or has there ever been a pod that had you feeling like that?
Like what? Say that last part.
Like, has there ever been a podcast where you're like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, I don't know if this is for me. Like, maybe podcasting isn't my groove.
No, no. I didn't have an experience like that. I did have a couple experiences where it's happened twice now. Well, two of my guests were one was really fucking baked.
Whoa.
And I have nothing wrong with like people smoking weed and doing shrooms. Like I'm not trying to come off like I'm judging them or judgmental about that. I don't, like do drugs anymore, and I used to smoke weed way back when. I don't do that kind of thing anymore, but I'm not judging anybody, but I had to like put in a clause when people like sign up to be on my podcast that they will promise not to be high or drunk or like under intoxicants, just because I'm probably never going to have him on again. And then I had another guy that was like shrooming like crazy, and I was like,
Oh, God.
well, if I turn into like a blue elephant in the middle of the podcast, like we need to like have a safe word or something. Like, I don't know. But I was like, dude, like don't drop a bunch of shrooms. And it's not so much that I give a shit. It's like I don't want my camera guy is kind of a little more uptight than me, and so like I don't want him to feel disrespected. So that's more of like my worry about it more than me. I don't give a shit, like whatever, but he doesn't find that funny at all. And
Mm-hmm.
I tell him, I'm like, hey, honestly, man, it makes for good content. So like, if they say something fucking dumb, like, then screw it. So I don't care. I really don't care. But yeah, I put a little thing in there, like, just please don't come like super high or on drugs.
Oh man.
But
Yeah, no,
everybody in Hawaii is super chill and laid back. So they're
yeah.
high most of the time, I would say.
Oh my God. There is a special, like, I mean, I smoke, and a lot of my buddies smoke. And there has been a list of podcasts that I have deleted because it's like, yeah, you know, bro, we'll smoke a little bit and then we'll record whatever. And then it's like,
You're
you
like,
press the
we're idiots.
record, like, yeah, well, you press the record button, and then there's like 20 minutes of us just fucking breathing, like, just oh yeah, that fucking yeah, that thing, and then it's like then silence all over again, and then mumbling, and you can hear us fucking dropping shit. Like, no, man, like, come on, guys, we got to get it together. Like, let's look alive here. Um, but there's definitely been some pods that I've done where it was like, I don't know if I was just too nervous or like what, but just got like clammy, you know, and wasn't really, I like again, I didn't know, I never knew really what it was, but I just remember that sensation of like, okay, maybe, I don't know, maybe even if you felt it with those guys, was we're like, okay, we're in the middle of the shits and we got to work through it. You know what I mean? Like, even when there's technical difficulties, it's like nowadays I feel that I'm like, oh, there's, you know, you feel that and you just work through it, whatever. But then there's times when people, you know, sometimes a pod just ain't going your way and you're like, yo, this is gonna be rough. Like, dude's a little too baked, bro. Like, I'm asking him questions and he's drifting off. Like, uh-oh. Those I think are always the funnest though, because it's like that's when you really learn though, right? Like, that's when we learn the most about our skills or our ability to adapt, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's really funny that you've had to you're like, I don't know if this one's good to to post. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely in, and it sounds weird to say, but I'm definitely in the upper echelon of my life in terms of like what I put in my body. I want to use as much of my brain as I can, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's kind of why like I don't like smoke. I actually don't even drink anymore. I stopped drinking last March for no real reason. I had like one podcast with a buddy and we made like a pact to stop for a year, and then he failed, and then I got to like talk shit, and I was like, oh, I'll just keep not drinking. And then I'm just like, I'm over it. Like, you know, like I always hated being hungover anyway.
Oh
Um,
God, yeah.
yeah, and it just doesn't serve me, you know. So yeah, I'm just kind of at that point. I mean, I kind of already was really into like health and stuff, and really the reason for that is I spent a lot of my time as like a young adult. When well, in high school, my dad had prostate cancer when I was 16, and I think it just kind of, when you see a parent suffer like that, it, you know, something just kind of like clicks in your mind, you know. So yeah, when I was 18, I got a personal trainer and I got really into like I had no idea that I like even like I had no concept that like McDonald's was bad for you, right? Like, and I didn't realize that I didn't know that. And then like I'm learning all this stuff about like nutrition, and I was like, holy crap, like this is crazy. And then learning about nutrition was like the other piece of the puzzle that I didn't have. Like I already was super athletic and working out and all that. I just didn't know anything about that. And then that just like changed everything. So so yeah, now that I'm like older and like, you know, have like a career and stuff, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just not gonna put any of that. It's nice to not be addicted to a USB drive like everybody else. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's
yeah.
a Yeah, there's a weird like social lubricant that I still find with smoking. Um, Drinking, I've been able to kick, um, and especially yeah, the older I get now, you know, you got the kids and everything, and it's like more and more it's slowly starting to get phased out. Just because one, it's hard to keep up with the kids when you're stoned. Two, you know, they see you sick and they want to take care of you, and they say, "Oh, daddy, you know, you have to get healthy. You have to get you better." And it's like, "Yeah, I do." It's like, "Yeah, I do. I know." It's like, I know." And they think just my fever or oh, I'm sick. It's like, no, I need to quit this fucking smoking. I need to quit staying up so late. I need to quit doing this. Get off my phone a little more. Work out a little more. Yeah, sorry. Like, sorry, hun. I'll work on that. Uh, yeah, definitely. I mean, being in the gym is definitely a big thing for me. But it's inspiring seeing like that
So
you're
the staying up late one is hard though. Like,
yes.
would you consider yourself like a night owl or like a morning person?
I would say a little bit of both. Um, because I'll stay up late, but then like for example, I have work at 4 a.m. tomorrow. Um, so I'll stay up late to do the things that I want to do, but then I also have to get up early to do the things I have to do. Type of thought. I don't know if that makes sense.
Kind of, but what I'm asking is like, for example, if you had a day off where you didn't have the things that you had to do, would your body normally want to stay up late at night and like do stuff? Or would you want to go to bed? Like, would you get tired, want to go to bed, and then like wake up super early and like be an early person?
I
Like, is that like what's your natural?
huh. I think over time now. I think over time now I've became more of an early bird. Um, yeah, but when I was younger, definitely before the kids, it was night owl. You know, I'm going to be up till 2, 3 a.m. Um, but then now, definitely, especially after having the kids, um, early bird. I'm up early. I'm up early all the time now. If I'm up after 7, that's kind of like, damn, I slept in. Like I've actually like I got some good sleep. Um, Early bird for me though, for sure. I just feel more accomplished. I feel like.
Okay, I think so. Well, what I was kind of getting at is they say like scientifically. I've read a lot of books about this that we each have, and then some people are like morning people where they get more naturally tired as the sun goes down, and then they can wake up super early. But if you have a job that goes against your normal like clock, then it can actually be unhealthy for you.
Ooh.
Yeah. So they say scientifically, like the books I've read have said that if you find a job that aligns with what is easier for you, so like if you're a night owl, you find a job where you work at night and vice versa, usually you're on a more of a healthier like track because that's kind of goes with your natural like whatever rhythmic thing that you have. And I was like, that's so interesting because I've always been a night owl and so is my mom. And yeah, so for me, when I was in military police officer and we had night shift, that was a walk in the park. It was a cakewalk for me because I could stay up all night.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I couldn't. I Oh my god, I couldn't imagine myself doing an all night like security detail or something like that. Like I couldn't imagine. Oh my god, like I've done some all night like overnighter jobs, right? Doing packaging or working at a group home. But God, to be on patrol, like especially like as a military cop all night long, like that to me is just golly, that's rough.
No, it's so fun, man. What are you talking about?
But it just sounds
Catching
like
somebody for a DUI is
oh,
so fun.
how many of those do you have under your belt?
Probably like I would say like 3 or 4 DUIs. Um, but yeah, I mean, getting the light like seeing who's speeding and then chasing after them, that is so fun, dude. That is literally the funnest. I caught a guy speeding and he turns into the parking lot like of the PX and almost runs over 2 people.
Oh my
And
god.
so like that was even more satisfying because like what's your argument now? You know? And I called up 2 of my traffic guys to back me up, and literally as like right when I got out of the car to go approach the vehicle, they were already there. And so they were more mad than I was because the dude was like a staff sergeant or something. And
Oh
so I'm rolling up in
wow.
this guy and I'm like, dude, where are you going? You know? And he was like, oh, I'm late for like my friend's barbecue. And I'm like, dude, you almost hit like 2 people in the parking lot. Like, come on. So yeah, definitely wrote him a ticket, but it's fun. Dude.
Yeah, I hunting
It
down.
doesn't. Yeah, there are nights that are boring. Yeah, you're not gonna like be hunting all the time.
Yeah, hunted down the bad guys. No. Oh no. No, no.
You hunted them.
No, no. That's like a even like because I have some buddies who are like who are North Carolina state troopers, and I have some friends who are California Highway Patrol or even with the PD. And some of them tell me like, "Hey, there's nights when it's really chill, man." Like he's like, "You wouldn't believe it." It's like, "Yeah, I know, but I'm just not down." Like that's why I give it up to my police officers, firefighters, military personnel, all anybody who gets any enjoyment from that. Like that okay, cool. I'm glad there's people like you in this world because I'm not down. I'm just not down. I like my dancing, I like my podcasting. I'm good. I'm so good with that. Uh if you could pick a if you
Yeah,
could pick
it's definitely
if you could pick
yeah,
a
it's definitely not
perfect
for everybody. It takes definitely a certain level of maturity because you will have those nights that are like chill and you're like, okay, cool, nothing's going on, and then you know 3 car accident or something, and like
oh,
everyone's dead or whatever, right? So like
yeah.
obviously that kind of stuff is hard, and then you have to memorize and write in your report every detail you can remember, like from memory. So um yeah, it's not for everybody, and what's even worse, I guess, if you look at it that way, is that not only was I a military police officer, but I was on the special reaction team. So I was on a specialized team that's similar to the definition of SWAT, where we basically reacted to active shooters and barricaded subject situations. Um, and that, that's even worse because, basically our motto was when you're in trouble, you call beer drinking limit because we were constantly on call. And then when we got the phone call, we had 3 hours to respond. So we literally had to make sure. I mean, I think I left my uniform like in my car because I was on call all the time. So if they called me, I had to go to my company and grab all my gear and put all my gear on and check my gear and check my buddy's gear and check, and you get checked and then you have to go, and a lot of the times we didn't know if a lot of those calls were real or not because they don't tell us if the call is real. They just call us and we have to react as if every call is real. And that's really stressful. That's really, really stressful stuff,
Yeah,
So
that's got like, yeah, that's a part of that, the beauty, I guess, of like the service people. Like whenever there's a call, they come running, and no matter how big or small, fake or not, they come running, and oof, uh, you know, there was always this thing I used to think about too, especially like with the older I got with the police department and this and that. Like even now, like when I get pulled over, I always love that question too. Cops would ask, would be like, "You seem nervous." It's like, yeah, dude. I now I just tell the truth. I'm like seriously tell the truth. Not like I'm not nervous. I'm like, yeah, I'm nervous. Well, why? Because you're a cop, dude. Like I don't know. Like I'm really sorry. Like I don't. I'm not a criminal, man. I was going just a little fast. Like I'm really sorry, bro. I'm really sorry. Like, I'm really really sorry because I know for him, he doesn't know me. He doesn't know what the fuck I've been doing or where I'm going or anything. He's got a family he wants to go home to too, or this girl officer might have been fucking dealing with six other assholes, throughout the day, and here I am, and I'm acting a little shaky. So whatever. So, but they have to report to each one like I could be some jerk off. So I always try to keep that in mind, and I that's why I give again, and I'll probably end up saying it another 5 times. That's why I give a lot of love to military, police, fire department, paramedics, whoever. I give them a lot of love because they have to pull up. They have to pull up to all kinds of situations. It's crazy.
yeah,
It's so crazy. Um, Listen, I I again I want to say thank you for you taking the time to come onto the podcast. Um, I'm getting the text messages from the wife though to go ahead and come to bed. Um, but I do appreciate you coming, especially after work.
yeah, of
Um,
course. Thanks for having me.
and I would love, especially if we can get something before you go to work, so we can have a little more time to talk. I would love to see about having you come on again because I've appreciated talking to you
Yeah,
truly.
for
Well,
sure.
Lucy, I want to say thank you again, and everybody who's going to be watching the smoking section. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
uh,
super stoked to be on.
thank you so much. I'm gonna send you a message right now on Instagram.
Awesome.
Thank you, you guys. That was Lucy Dorado, right? You guys don't even know. Before we got on the show, we had to figure out some camera shit, right? But we got him on the show. Lucy is dope as fuck. I'm gonna link the podcast in the description. Really take a second and sit down and listen. Lucy has the, like, I don't even know if you heard as she's talking tonight, like the strength in her voice, right? Like it has got the it factor, right? When it comes to podcast hosts. And as you guys all know, right? Usual Tuesday smoking section, we get rowdy. But that you gotta show the love too. Yeah. Hope you guys have a good day, week, month, year in life. Until next time, I'll see y'all on the flip side.